Analysis by the BBC of cuts to legal aid funding in England and Wales has revealed a big increase in the number of people representing themselves in court following major cuts to the legal aid budget in 2013. It found there are now 5 areas of England and Wales with a combined population of 1.5 million people where there is no legal aid help for people contesting housing cases. Ministry of Justice figures shows that the areas are Doncaster, Dorset, Hartlepool, Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight, and also Wigan, that they're all without financial support for issues including evictions and repair works to their homes. The investigation also revealed around 1 million fewer legal aid claims are being filed a year since 2012. Well, we can speak now to Ian Howgate, who successfully fought 2 court cases alone after failing to find a legal aid solicitor. He says his family was living below the breadline and he considered killing himself while fighting against a decision to stop his housing benefit. And also to Sue James, a housing lawyer at Hammersmith and Fulham Law Centre. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming to speak to us here on BBC News. Ian, first of all, so your housing benefit was wrongly stopped and you found yourself £1,000 a month out of pocket. Yeah. Why did you then have to fight your own case?
We tried to find somebody who would fight it for us, but we didn't have the money to pay our rent, and therefore we didn't have the money to pay for a solicitor ourselves. And legal aid just wasn't available for that particular type of case. So as a result, it became a process of us trying to argue with the council ourselves, and then eventually arguing through a tribunal at a court. A really gruelling process that went on for 13 months, in which the other side's primary objective seemed to be to prevent us getting to the court.
And you had such a difficult time living in poverty that I understand that your son actually asked to be fostered?
Yeah, he 10th of June, you don't forget a date like that, and he reached the end of his tether, and we actually took him down to the council and agreed. And it wasn't an easy decision. It was a decision that revolved around the fact that we couldn't afford to support him, we couldn't give him the need and the support that he deserved. And yeah, they didn't accept him, but that was where he was at that time. And
you must have been at a very, very low ebb.
As a family, we were at a very low ebb, and I fluctuated. I suffer from post-traumatic stress, which made it even more difficult. That was before this legal case started, and yeah, I ended up leaving the house a number of times, walking to our local canal with the intention of throwing myself in. And one day I did attempt to throw myself under a speeding police car that came past us, but yeah, they were bad times.
They sound like really terrible times.
You know, so.
Sue James, you represent people who are involved in cases like this. In your experience, how detrimental is it to them to have to represent themselves in court in this way?
Well, it's incredibly detrimental. For housing law, it's a complex area of law. It's really important that people get representation, but as in Ian's case, legal aid isn't available for welfare benefits, and so lawyers are not there to represent in those cases. And I represent at Housing Court, where I'm duty solicitor, and what we increasingly see since the cuts to legal aid is that people are in crisis. I've never seen it as bad as it is at the moment. I was in court 2 weeks ago. Someone had walked to court because they didn't have the money to actually pay the bus fare to get there, and they were being evicted because their benefits had been stopped. So we're seeing that, and we're seeing universal credit is impacting quite greatly too.
The Ministry of Justice says that there are enough legal aid solicitors across England and Wales. They might just be spread unevenly. You're both shaking your heads, Sue. What do you say to that?
Yes, I mean, you've read out today the areas that don't have any solicitors. There are many areas with just one. One of the areas that you didn't include there is Suffolk. They've tried 3 times, Suffolk Law Centre, to get a housing solicitor without success. We turn people away because we haven't got the capacity to cope with that. Lots of my colleagues do the same. It's impacted by court closures, the welfare reform. It's a perfect storm for people who are desperately in need, and things need to change. We have a LASBO review at the moment, and we're waiting for the government to announce whether or not they're going to do make any changes. You know, what we've asked for is early advice to be brought back, because it doesn't make any sense for someone like Ian to get into a crisis position when you could have resolved it very early on.
Absolutely.
And Ian, just to come back to you, you fought your case successfully. You're somebody who is, you've run your own company.
Well, I was a director of a FTSE 100 company before my mental breakdown. So
you have a university education. You're somebody with a lot of resources.
I worked in legal and compliance departments for 20 years, so I understand the law. I'm an atypical person to end up in this situation. We did win, and they weren't close-cut decisions. In both of our cases, they were pretty much landslide. They shouldn't have got to court. What Sue's saying is absolutely right. Early intervention would stop a lot of suffering and it would save a lot of costs. But, you know, to reflect on the comment about the fact that we've, you know, these lawyers are available. My son's case, which was the second case we fought, which was his exclusion from school, that was a case where there should have been legal aid available, but we couldn't get a solicitor. I mean, we tried and tried and tried, and that became an almost more difficult task than winning the case. And my wife actually pleaded with me in the end. She asked me to stop trying to find somebody. She felt it was tearing me apart. She wanted me just to focus on representing my son. And she was right, but it was an impossible situation because it placed me in a position where if I failed my son, who was already deeply unhappy with everything that was going on in our family, how was I ever going to repair that relationship problem on failing him? You know, it's a wonderful thing. We did win. We walked away, and you know, we're a happy family now. But it's only by the grace of God, really, that we are in that place now.
We're going to have to leave it there.
All right.
Ian, many thanks. Ian Howgate and
Bless
Sue
you.
James as well.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Time to return now to Westminster and to my colleague Joanna Gosling.
Thank you very much, Rita. We'll